Sales Workshop. I see we have, I don't know, 6 or 8 people on initially, and I will obviously keep the participant waiting room open because people kind of trickle in as we go. But I think there's some newcomers on this call, and certainly I see a couple of repeat names and faces. But very quickly, what we kind of do and what my workshops are geared toward that I run every other Tuesday is more for our resellers and people looking to monetize their Audience Lab subscription, which is probably a majority on the call. I know we do have certain users, right, that just use the data from themselves in their own campaigns, that kind of stuff. That if you need help with that kind of stuff, that's more our data strategy workshops and things like that. I don't necessarily get into the pulling your lists and data. That's not what I cover on these calls. But kind of what I go over and how I structure mine. Again, I kind of schedule or build a lesson for each one of my workshops that I want to go over with you guys. I do 2 different question and answer segments. So I like to start off with, before I really dive into anything, I know there's certain times that some of you guys hop on just to ask a specific question, and you may have another call in 20 minutes, so you may not be able to stay for the full time. So if anybody hopped onto this workshop with a specific question, have anything to do with the sales, with the how to put this as an offer, how to package it, how to position it, anything along those lines, do me a favor and just drop a 1 in the chat, and I will call on you, and we will hit your questions kind of before I dive into today's lesson. From there, I'm going to go over some stuff that I have planned, and I'll save time at the end for a question and answer segment as well, because I know some of you guys may have questions just, pertaining to what I do cover today that you wouldn't know to ask right now, obviously. So I'll give it 1 more minute. Let me just give me 1 second here, guys. I have too many people's bots trying to join, and I don't need a full room full of bots. Let me just remove those out of the waiting room. And lastly, just so everybody knows, every one of these that I do is recorded, and I upload the replay into the school community before the end of business day. Each day I run one of these. I'll go show you where to find those as well, just in case you're not sure. But let me start off with the first thing I like to go over, and I do on every one of these workshops. A lot of you guys may have received this resource already when we had our one-on-one call. When you came in to Audience Lab, we did what was ever, we've changed the name over the years. Could have been a Trojan horse call or fastest path to cash or easy wins. Whatever it was, I normally go through this document. And what I'm going to do, as I just cover this really quickly for some of the newer people on, I'm going to go drop the link to this right here in the chat. Hey, Georgetta, thank you for the message. I saw yours there, but nobody had any for questions yet. So that's why I'm going to kind of go into my stuff, and we'll get back to questions. But right there in the Zoom chat, under Georgetta's message, is the link to the document that's on my screen right now. Now, this is something I provide to all of our Audience Lab users. And basically, this has everything you should need to build out your sales process, regardless of, number one, hey, Ray, I'm an existing agency, and I'm just kind of looking to bolt DaaS onto my existing services, offerings, etc. Or 2, I know some of you guys come in and you're running kind of a core flagship data agency where that's all that you offer. Regardless of which one of those 2 you fall into, the 9 resources and everything I put into here is everything you guys should need to build out your data as a service sales process. So really quickly, we'll go over this. And again, the link is in the chat there for anybody that doesn't have this, wants to open it, follow along, what have you. Number 1 is Google Docs saying, hey, if I'm you, step 1, 2, 3, 4, here's how I would build out my sales process. When you go through that, you're going to see I recommend a 2-call process. Now, just to be clear, does that mean all of my DaaS reseller agencies use a 2-call sales process? No. There's about 20 different sales processes with all kinds of different ways you can do it. The reason I recommend this is, number 1, this is what we use at Audience Lab to grow our own business, and in damn near every sales team I've built out for multiple other companies and businesses. Number 2, 63% of my most successful DaaS reseller agencies, existing clients, are using a 2 sales call process. So number 1, when I use that for success. Number 2, when over 63% of my users are having the most success with it, yes, that's the one I'm recommending. So call number 1 in a sales process, we may refer to as a triage call. Here's your script, your framework already built out to close data deals. Call number 2, we may refer to as the demo or the actual sales call. Here's your script, your framework, again, built out to go close data deals. Guys, this framework is pretty tried and tested. I know my team has closed about $8 million in data deals using this particular framework, so I can confidently say it works, right? Number 6 for anybody that hasn't seen, and actually we're going to go in and update this. I've realized that this is a little dated. We're going to have a new one of these coming out really soon, but this one is still spot on. It still certainly serves a purpose. But that's just a copy of the authority pitch and or slide deck that we put together that I recommend maybe you use on your sales presentations. Number 8, a Google Doc here with about 20 or so of my personal sales call recordings. I know a lot of my users have said to me, hey, Ray, just listening to 2 or 3 of your recordings really helped me dial in the terminology and the verbiage I should be using on sales calls. So there's all that and more. Of course, I just gave the quick little overview. I go over this on pretty much every workshop. It becomes redundant for some of you repeat people that are on all of my workshops. I get it. The first 5 minutes of these are probably boring and you guys can just tune them out. But there's always at least one new client on pretty much each one of my workshops. So I always recover this, but here's your document to go over sales resources and all the sales resources, I should say, that I provided to you guys to build out your sales process. Now, what I want to get into is what I kind of mapped out for today's lesson. And really quickly before I do that, I just wanted to reiterate any of you guys that might be on this call that are doing email marketing, that are looking to start doing email marketing, that are looking to do it better, more effective. I put a couple of posts in school, but I know not everybody sees those. But tomorrow only, Wednesday, the 24th, 2 p.m. Eastern, we have an expert guest email marketing strategy workshop. And if you guys didn't see the post, my expert guest coming in is a guy I made friends with a couple of months ago. And then we set up this workshop. His name is David Feldman, and he does all of Russell Brunson's email copywriting, his email marketing. And he's coming in to share exactly what he does for Russell, his companies, as well as some of his other clients. But really, the cutting edge and most effective strategies for either starting your email outreach campaigns and how to do it and ramp up so you're getting more, volume of emails out there, but also doing so compliantly and legally, right? So he's going to focus on that as well as the copywriting things side of things and why the copy he writes for Russell's emails converts so well. Not just Russell, his other clients, but just wanted to make everybody aware. If you're doing any type of email marketing and you want some strategies from literally one of the best in the game that has the proven track record, this workshop should offer you all some value tomorrow. Go click on it and add it to your calendar. Now, what I built out for today is a lesson that I taught only once about 4.5 months ago. And the reason I wanted to bring this up again is number one, there's been a couple updates and some more things I've thrown into this lesson in this document for you. And guys, I will share this one with you shortly. I just want to start going through it and make sure everybody's understanding it before I go throw it in the chat. But I really built this because I went back through my last 2 weeks since my last workshop of data and clients that have reached out to me, prospects, existing users. And the number one thing, matter of fact, I had a one-on-one call yesterday with a guy, Dominic, who's been a client of ours since I ran the last workshop like this, to be honest, it's about 4.5 months ago, that told me exactly what you see there in highlighted yellow. And some of you other guys may be struggling with this. Some of you guys may be new to Audience Lab where you're just looking to start monetizing. So whether you're new and looking to start monetizing the data, whether you've been with us for a while and you've been struggling, I want to cover everything I put together and everything I believe is all encompassing and entailed with utilizing the data to monetize, right? So number one, I already did a lesson like 4.5 months ago, as I talked about, and I put the YouTube video and the replay right in here. Oh, that's the one other thing I want to do before I get sidetracked. Sorry, guys. I'll go back to that document in 1 second. But just really quickly, as I mentioned, all of my sales workshop recordings are always uploaded to the school community at the end of each day. So very simply, when you go down to this toolbar where I'm kind of hovering my mouse, announcements, office and tech support, just click on more and then click on sales. And in this channel is where you'll see all my replays. So I can guarantee you 14 days ago, boom, 14 days ago, today's DaaS workshop. Then again, the month or two before, you'll see a copy of 28 days ago, boom, my workshop. Today's will be there again by end of the day. So if you ever want to replay or rewatch any that you're on and you had to hop off or want to watch a replay, that's where it is. Or you want to go back and catch some of the older ones. That's where all my replays get uploaded. Now, what I want to start going through, and guys, as I'm going through this, if you have questions, either jot them down and I'll get back to you at the end of the workshop. I save time for a Q&A segment, or type them in the chat as we go, and I'll either save them to the end or I'll address them as I see them pop up, whatever kind of fits into the flow. But let's go through the steps that I put in here, and within each step, I put resources that apply to that. So it's not just like, hey, Ray said go do new outreach, right? Well, what exactly does that mean? There's all kinds of different things. So again, there's a lesson, a tutorial, a module, some type of resource that goes with each one of these. But number one, to monetize the data, we first initially have to define and identify our outreach approach channel or approaches and channels. So very simply, as you guys have heard me say time and time again, I see a lot of the data. I work with a lot of the clients closely. What I find that works best is some combination of using the data in ad and email outreach. Does that mean other of you guys aren't using it in other ways? No, there's about 10 different ways that might, that our users are using this. Some people are doing SMS. Some people are doing cold calling. Some people are doing door knocking, home mailers, social media outreach campaigns. There's all kinds of ways we can do this, but it's good to identify what is the one or two I'm starting with. Maybe there's even more than that, but most people really start with one or two channels. Then they start to get results from them and then expand. For instance, at Audience Lab, we use about 6 or 7 channels now, where for many years, my clients have heard me talk about 4 main channels we use for outreach. And we got those down really good and we expanded. And this year we've added a couple other channels to how we bring in new clients and new revenue, et cetera. So again, defining yours. And the module I put in there is if, let's just say, for argument's sake, I enrolled yesterday into Audience Lab. I want to go build out my DaaS agency, and I'm really starting from scratch, Ray. I don't have a budget. I don't plan on running ad spend or marketing dollars into my own campaigns. Maybe outside of some simple tools, right? Whatever you're paying for, CRM or email email service providers, etc. But let's just say you don't have an ad budget and you're not putting together campaigns to run your own ads and your own campaigns to land clients. What I put in this little module here is if I'm you, I just enrolled yesterday. I'm starting my DaaS agency from scratch without a lot of capital or an advertising budget. Here's the best practices and how I've seen my clients have the most success. Again, and here you're going to see example of ads, email, LinkedIn, etc. In this one, I don't cover the ads as much because exactly what I just said. This is for people that don't necessarily have a budget. Now, if you do have a budget and you are running ads, for your own business and to get more clients for your agency, that's great. That's even better. But I show you in this module some organic ways that have a lot less or free of cost that can still get you results, land you your first couple of clients. And then what I recommend and what I like to see my users do is go start your ad campaigns and your marketing dollars out of profit once you've landed a couple of clients through the free methods I show you rather than out of pocket. Now, again, if you come in with a budget and you have it and you're ready to start running ads and that's your, ideal objective or goal from the jump, great. You can certainly do that and probably get killer results. I'll just show people some other ways outside of the ad spend. Then the next aspect is we got to dial in our messaging, right? When we're sending out whatever we're doing, right? Ads, email, LinkedIn outreach, whatever we're doing, we need to have a good initial message that piques their interest, intrigues, delivers value, and more importantly, inspires or inquires them to want to raise their hand and say, yes, Bob, yes, Ray, I'd like some more information about your data platform. I'd like more information about how to see who's visiting my website. I'd like more information on how to drop my cost per lead and acquisition without changing anything else in my campaigns, right? So whatever we're using for hooks to kind of get that interest. And here in the module that I included, I gave you guys some examples. So now that I'm going through this, matter of fact, and you guys are following along, let me just go grab the link and drop this in the chat for anybody that wants to open it, follow along, go through it later, any of that type of stuff. Oh, okay, Stan, I'm just seeing your message. Give me 1 second there. So Stan, hey Ray, I don't see the doc in the chat, not sure. So now, Stan, I don't know when you came in. I know I approved some people as I was already talking. If you're talking about the document on my screen, yes, I just dropped the link. Earlier than that, what I cover at the beginning of every DaaS Sales Workshop, and I'll go drop this one again just in case anyone's hopping on or missed it. But the resource on my screen here might have been before you hopped on, Stan, maybe a couple other people on this call. I'm not sure. These are all the resources I put together if you're building out a DaaS agency and you're reselling any of these tools. You're reselling lists, audiences, leads, super pixels. So I'm going to go throw this one in the chat again as well. Again, just in case people hopped on late and want it. But the one I dropped at the 3:14 Eastern timestamp, that's the one that's more relevant to today's lesson and the one that is now back on my screen. So I see one other private message there. Got a few minutes late. Could you please report Google Drive link when you get it? Yeah. Got it. Repost. Yes. That's what I just did. Everything I've covered so far has now been reposted in the chat. Initially was the document again for the seller resources. Now we're into the document on all these resources and tips for how to monetize the data and the real process. So again, the messaging is super important. That's one of my area of expertise and what I've done in all my businesses, whether I've done it myself or I just have a big part in it. But it's certainly part that drives the business and drives conversions. So I dropped in there a school lesson just specifically on how to start, getting better at your messaging. Gave some examples of messaging that's worked both for myself and for my clients. And then, of course, we get into building out your sales process. Now that we know what channel we're using for outreach, number one on this, now that we have messaging dialed in, or we're at least testing and optimizing, it should start to lead to some conversions. Yes, we want to continue to optimize that messaging, dial in better, and increase conversions. But even initially in the first run or two, we should get some positive replies, some people that are interested, and ultimately book some sales calls. So that's the document that I've already gone over and shared there, the seller resources, right? We've already gone over that today. Number 4, I don't want people to spend a lot of time on this, but why I put this in here is some of you guys asked specifically if I could build out a DaaS or a data funnel where I can be hands off and just have a sales process where I don't have to take calls. Yes, you can, but I think that's definitely the outlier, and that's not what a majority of my clients do, and not necessarily what I recommend. Now, what I will say is if you're really just focused on selling pixels and pixel resolutions, that's probably the best thing you can set up in a kind of automated flow. So what I dropped in here, let's just look over this document in the 3 simple steps. Number 1, I put up a website example of one of my clients who is just selling the pixel, who's doing automated, and who is not taking sales calls and closing deals. So again, once you're in here, you can click on that. Sorry, I got some background noise coming. If you're not speaking or right now, or if you're just viewing, can you just make sure you're on mute, everybody? Just so I'm not getting background noise in my ears as I'm talking, that would be appreciated. Thank you. But again, number 1, example of a landing page from a client that did build out an automated process to sell without, taking calls manually. Number 2, a copy of the Pixel Forecast Calculator, which in this case, as I kind of cover in the brief YouTube tutorial that I put at the top of this page, how you can take our Pixel Forecast Calculator and kind of build that into your website potentially, or into your landing page, so people can see the ROI, and then that's going to probably entice them a bit more to want to make that purchase. Of course, this is also covered a little later in the main doc, but we have in the school community, just to give you guys a little recap, in the school community in the classroom section, you're going to scroll down and you're going to see client contracts and agreements. So we put a couple of different, we have what's called a statement of work and a master service agreement. One is for more in-depth, entailed type of agreements, and one are kind of more standard. But in here, you'll find the different contracts. You can download them, and there's a tutorial on each and when I would use each if I were you. So again, just to make sure, all that stuff is covered there in school. So that's just a quick little overview of this document. Again, I cover some more. This is basically what I just went over and showed you. Number 5 on my screen is the link that shows you where to find those templates, how to use them. And again, I just gave a quick little explanation, but there's the link on how to go find those quickly. Also in the classroom tab, you can just scroll down to the contracts and agreements or whatever it was titled. Now, I think when we get these, really the top 2 are by far the most important. I'm not saying number 3, the sales process and closing deals, isn't as important, but from my perspective, I think you guys have a lot more structure and a lot more stuff built out, and that becomes seamless once you get a little comfortability. Does anybody normally close their first data deal that they try to close? Highly unlikely. I don't expect anybody to come in and be perfect on their sales call and have all the verbiage and the hooks and the angles to close deals. Sales processes and sales calls, conversations, as you guys know, it takes reps and a little comfortability to kind of find your groove, for lack of a better phrase, right? Just because I give you templates and scripts and outlines of my call recordings, I don't expect any of you that have exactly the same personality, that use the exact same verbiage and tonality. So make it all your own. I'm just showing you the examples of what's worked for me. And the scripts are pretty self-explanatory. I always call the scripts, as I talk about so often, they're more frameworks, right? A script, I could probably train a bright enough monkey to read. A framework gives us a little critical thinking where we can tweak and optimize and put the human critical thinking element into how we run a sales call. What I mean by that is I think a lot of people, and I was actually you guys probably know I build and manage and oversaw our Audience Lab sales team forever. I actually just rebuilt a second front end team, just selling some of our smaller items that went, grew us from about 6 or 7 sales reps to now having about 12. My point here though is when I'm working with reps on these sales calls and on these processes, almost every time what I find is number one, they try to build out a script where they're just asking these questions regardless of my answer to the previous one. And what I mean by that is, let's just say I have 6 or 8 questions that I generally want to ask in a discovery phase of a sales call. Well, do I always ask those 6 to 8 questions in the exact same order? Personally, no, probably never. They're probably all in some different order unless I have kind of the exact same prospect. And what I mean by that is those 6 or 8 questions that we're looking to ask and really assess and gather the right information so we can assess, we always want to ask the one that kind of piggybacks off the previous answer. What I mean by that, here's a good example. Hey, Bob, how many clients are you working with? And in a perfect world, how many would you like to be working with? Bob might say, hey, Ray, I'm currently working with 5. Ideally, I think I have the bandwidth and the capability right now to double and go in and take on 10 clients. Great, Bob. So if you had 10 clients instead of 5 right now, what would be the difference in your business and what would you do for that? Now, guys, in my script, that might not have been my next question of importance or in the order. But because of Bob's answer, I want to piggyback and make my next question relevant to the answer he gave me to the prior question. That's what I mean by having a little critical thinking and just, asking the next logical question. It's weird if a client's like, hey, I have 5 clients and I want to have 10. And the next question is, okay, so, what's your marketing budget this month? Like that doesn't piggyback off what they just answered. It's like taking them down a whole different road. And they're like, why is he kind of asking me this off of that? That has nothing to do with it. And it just seems weird, right? So I think number one, a lot of people build a script and they just follow it every call. The script should be more of a framework that is interchangeable based on the conversation and the dialogue you're having with a prospect. The number two thing I would say for most reps, and something I worked on with a couple of my newer hires that I did some one-on-one role plays last week, I find that a lot of reps, particularly early on when they feel like they have to give really detailed explanation and they're not necessarily in their flow yet, I find they talk way more than the prospect. So on a perfect sales call, the prospect should be talking more than you. Matter of fact, one of my new reps, I'm not going to call him out by name, but last week we did 3 one-on-one role plays. My feedback to him after every single sales role play was, man, you talked 70% of the time, 80% of the time, 90% of the time. And each one I did with him, it may have went down by about 10%, but he was never getting the understanding of we should be talking equal or they should be talking more. And I would say the only outlier to that, guys, is when you get to your pitch. Yeah, when you get to the pitch part, it's going to be more you and the prospect talking less. And that's the only time throughout the call you should really be talking a lot more than them. And even when you get into the pitch, you should still keep it interactive and a back and forth and keep them involved. That's another thing I see where sales reps kind of shoot themselves in the foot. They start doing the pitch and they just get so in depth to how they pitch every single time. Can I provide landing page for selling AL? So I already went through that a little, Michael. I'll get back to that one in a minute. Yeah, I'll get back to that one in a minute. And I'll show you, I actually have an example up of one of ours as well as one of our clients. But what I was just saying with the sales conversations, again, a lot of people way over talk, or when they get in the pitch, they think they're always pitching the same. Now, I'll tell you this. I could have 8 sales calls on my calendar for Audience Lab clients or Audience Lab calls for the day. It's almost certain that I'm going to do 8 different pitches. What I mean by that is I'm always customizing my pitch based on what I found out in the discovery phase. What are the number 1 or 2 things that are really going to move the needle for this client? What are the number 1 or 2 things that I can embed into their current process seamlessly? I can just kind of throw the data onto what they're already doing and just throw fuel onto the fire. Once I identify those, I gear my pitch around those 1 or 2 things. And those 1 or 2 things are likely different for all my calls throughout the day. For instance, first guy I get on might be, Ray, my main goal is to lower my cost per lead and acquisition in my paid media and meta ad campaigns. Cool. I'm going to focus on a totally different thing for him than a guy that says, Ray, my number 1 goal is to get the white label dashboard and start reselling this. I'm going to focus on something different for that guy. Ray, my number 1 goal is identifying the people going to my website and revisiting them. And then I want to be able to resell this technology to my clients and my client base. Cool. For that guy, I'm going to focus on a different thing in my pitch. So hopefully this is making sense, guys. And hopefully this isn't super redundant and there's some new information or some value here. But I feel like a lot of people build out a pitch in a framework or a script and they always stick to it and they pretty much read it verbatim. So it's almost like you're going through it robotic. It doesn't feel custom. It doesn't feel personal and it doesn't feel really authentic or genuine, right? But when my pitch is always different, kind of custom to this particular user, his problem, the value I can provide, the ROI, I always like to dive into ROI with my pitch, right? So I might always be pitching. So that's kind of what I mean. Now, back to your question there, Michael, you might have jumped in a minute or two late. I think you might have been the last person I admitted. One thing I was going through earlier, I provided everybody with this resource I'm going over. And again, Michael or anyone else that may have hopped in late, let me go drop this in the chat again, just in case anybody missed it or hopped in after I posted it. I don't think you can see the prior links or prior messages in our chat thread. If you came in at 10 minutes in, anything 9 minutes or prior, you probably don't see. So the document I'm going through here, I just dropped the link in again. And now within that document, Michael, number 4 specifically, I went through this document. This is a landing page showing how um, I give a brief overview with a little YouTube tutorial on how you should and can build out a landing page to be kind of hands off with the sales process. Number 2, sorry, the brief overview isn't numbered. So number 1 on the document is an example of a landing page one of my DaaS resellers, like you guys on this call, built out and had success and closed deals with. So there's a couple examples. Now, while we're on that question, and before I go any more in the main doc on today's lesson, let me show you something that we've built out in recent months that we didn't offer or sell this way prior. So basically, you guys know, and all the plans that you got in DaaS, even some of the incubator, you can get access to Super Pixel. You may be limited on the amount of pixels or the amount of resolutions, but you have access to these. And we were always selling the pixels included in all of our DaaS and incubator packages. What we really missed out on in terms of a revenue stream and kind of lower ticket front end products that we should have really took to market, hell, probably a couple of years ago, but definitely earlier than we did, are all our individual pixel pricing plans. So just to Michael's question, what you were talking about, this isn't the initial landing page that people see. I will go find that and bring that up. I didn't already have it on my screen, but I can find it very quickly. I'll bring it up and share it with you guys before the end of this call here. What I did want to bring up and show you is the different pricing plans that we developed. So these are just people that want 1 pixel for their own website, and I'm going to diagnose and assess which package based on the amount of traffic they're getting to their website and the amount of resolutions I would likely be providing. So as you see on this page, we have pixel packages that an individual could buy anywhere from $97 up to $1,500 per month. And basically how I would prescribe this, just so you guys all know my thought process here, this first package, this $97 starter one, only allows 250 resolutions per month. I would be offering this to a guy who says I get about 500 hits to my website, because as you guys likely know, our resolutions are about 40 to 60%. So let's just ballpark that at the middle number of 50%. I am looking to provide, or I should say prescribe, the pixel package that gives about the amount of resolutions that is about 50% of their traffic, okay? That's just a good formula to go by. Can you alter those numbers a little? Sure, but that's just a good baseline. So this next package for 147 with 500 resolutions, I'd be prescribing this to a guy that gets about 1,000 hits to his website, so on and so forth. So now this guy tells me, Ray, I get about 100,000 hits to my website. He's probably going to need our pixel scale package with 50,000 resolutions per month. So there's a good little overview of each plan. And then, of course, we break it down. We break it down by the cost per resolution. So if I'm getting 250 resolutions for $97, that breaks down to 38 cents per, consumer profile resolved or identity resolved. Whereas at our scale plan, you're really only paying 3 cents per resolution resolved as opposed to 38 cents. So each one of these, the cost per unit itself drops for the user, and they're making, it's a little more valuable for them. So that's a good little overview of that. Now, let me just go back. I saw a couple other things in the chat, see if we have another question or two. And then again, I will bring up the landing page. What exactly is a resolution? Is it equivalent to an actual lead? So very simply, great question. Very simply, what I like to say, with the pixel being slapped on a website, it is an identity resolution tool or technology that we call a super pixel, right? And not everybody has to use that terminology. I think it makes sense. But also, sometimes what I found is when we start talking about pixel, people think we're talking about a Facebook pixel, which is totally separate. They do totally different things, totally different objectives, different databases. But basically, what a resolved identity, what entails a resolved identity? Great question there, Stan. So somebody hits your website. They never opt in and give you their information. You, as the business or site owner, likely have no idea who that individual is. We can give you back their first and last name, their phone number, their email, their SHA-256 or hashed email, which we might use in retargeting meta ads. All of the information that comes within that one profile, Stan, that is a resolved identity. So for each website visitor that our pixel fires and resolves their identity, that's what a resolution is. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any other questions on that, but I think that's a pretty clear, concise explanation. Okay, awesome. Now, let me go back into the document I was going to, and then Michael, I will go find and show you the landing page that we personally use. I already showed you where to find the example from the one that my reseller DaaS client uses to sell his pixels. So I'll go find you that before we log off here. Where we left off earlier is I was going through all the steps to monetize your Audience Lab data membership here. We left off at number 5. So number 6, what I mean by this, and I want this to make sense to everybody. Once we have done the top 5 things, right? We've figured out our outreach channel. We've dialed in our messaging. We've booked sales calls. We've closed deals. We filled out the contract, everything else. Now, fulfillment is certainly the next step. And we want to make sure we're building the proper expectations, not only after the sale and in onboarding, but throughout the whole sales process. What I mean by that is there's normally 2 resources that I shoot a quick little module or video that I provide to my new users, especially if I'm more in your shoes, selling to businesses or brand owners looking to use the data for themselves. As you guys know, I sell more to agencies that, generally speaking, are more looking to resell or white label the data. Not a I don't think a majority of our clients, their number one objective is to use it in their own campaigns, the same way it would be for the people you're reselling it to. So I like to build 2 little videos that I send them. Whether you decide you want to do this in 1 or 2 is totally up to you. I like to make them separate because some clients only need one or the other, and they are separate objectives, but you can certainly shoot it all into one and they correlate with one another. So the 2 main things that I do is, number 1, I let them know best practices on reactivating the data. What do I mean by that? Well, number 1, when I'm on the sales call, as I was talking about with the questions I asked during the discovery phase, I want to have a very clear understanding of how they're currently signing up, bringing in clients, how they're getting leads, and their client acquisition system. Let's just say when I go through that phase, I find out that this guy's bringing in a majority of his clients via email and paid ads. Okay, let's say it's those 2. Now, what I'm going to show him when I get into the pitch is how the data seamlessly embeds and works with the paid ad and the cold email to deliver the results. And I'm basically going to shoot him a video saying, hey, Bob, now that you're getting access to my platform and you're going and building your own audiences, I remember when you and I spoke on your sales call, you talked about primarily using meta ads and cold email. Here's the best practices for how to embed the data into those 2 capacities. And then the second one, piggybacking off that, B, is the compliance and SOP best practices. So before I clarify and dive fully in depth into that, I want to give a couple more examples of best practicing on reactivating the data. You guys can also make this very vague. That's relevant to all your clients. I personally usually do these that are kind of relevant and specific, and I shoot them custom. That can be time draining. You may not have the bandwidth, whatever. I totally get it. You can also make a very generic one that says, hey, now that you have access to, and again, you guys might not call yourself Audience Lab, let's just say XYZ agency data. Now that you have access into my data and I'm providing you with lists, here's how I recommend reactivating it. The fastest and most common practices for quickest and best ROI and staying 100% compliant that I see is using this data in paid ads. Second would be email. Third would be SMS. Fourth would be cold calling. And then beyond that, Mr. Client, my clients use the data in a number of other methods. They might use it in door knocking, canvassing campaigns. They might use it in home mailer campaigns. They might use it in social media outreach campaigns where they're getting somebody's LinkedIn or Facebook profile and sending them a connection request and then a DM. So there's all kinds of ways you can activate the data. I'm happy to sit with you and walk through that. But the 4 I see most prevalent and the best ROI in that order: ads, email, SMS, then cold calling. Now, guys, kind of tying back into B here and the compliance side of things, the reason that I've found that they kind of go in that order, 1 through 4, ads, email, SMS is cold calling. Each one of them, we kind of go down the rung. There's a little more stringent, compliant, and legal, ramifications and policies and laws and all that stuff. So we want to make sure that we are compliant. And as I like to tell people, federally speaking, again, everybody should check each state that they're operating in and what the own laws. I can only give you federal guidelines and regulations because I'm trying to give you the legality and compliance aspect that is relevant to the whole country, right? There might be some outliers. For instance, I know Texas and California specifically have more restrictive SMS laws than some of the other 48 states. That's one example. But generally speaking, nationwide federal compliance regulations for the data to be compliant in ads, there's almost no restrictions other than if we're in some of them special categories, things that are 18 or 21 plus products, right? Adult products, CBD products, those industries, it can get a little dicey. And we have tips for how to still pull your audiences and get them into your ad campaigns. But that's the only time where you might have to be a little more cautious about what you're doing. Any mainstream niche or industry you're in, real estate, roofing, solar, HVAC, home services, e-commerce, on and on, your data is almost always going to be 100% compliant in the paid ads. Second, federal email compliance has 4 parameters in the guidelines. So you should have 4 things in your email in addition to the body. You should have your name, your business name, your business address, and a clear opt-out at the bottom of the email. As long as you have those things and the body, you are compliant in terms of federal email outreach. Now with SMS, it's only 3 of those 4 I just said for email. You don't need the business address to be legal and compliant in SMS. You do need your name, your business name, and a clear opt-out. And then with cold calling, it gets even a little more dicey. How I tell people to use the data if they're using it in a cold calling capacity, and I generally don't recommend it. What I mean by that and not recommending it, guys, I don't recommend every Tom, Dick, and Harry, for lack of a better phrase, go pull an audience off the platform, go pick up their personal cell phone and just start dialing numbers. I don't recommend that. For anybody that is using the data in a cold call outreach method, I always recommend you take the list that you pulled off Audience Lab and run it through one outside do not call list registry just to double check that none of those numbers jive. The easiest way to fall out of compliance with cold calling is pick up your phone and dial 2 or 3 people in a row that are on the do not call list and see how quick one of those 3-letter agencies will be fining you, shutting you down, restricting you, all those things. So where I would say the data makes sense in a cold calling outreach is anybody that's currently doing that compliantly and that's their current main acquisition channel. For instance, earlier on when I was talking about best practices on activating the data, and I gave the example of the prospect or the client I was speaking with in that instance was using, meta ads and cold email. Well, the ones that use cold calling, generally speaking, they already have an existing outbound call team or a call center. They already are doing it compliant. Their number one thing to acquire clients before they ever signed up with Audience Lab was putting numbers into their outreach outbound call dialing team or their cold calling center or whatever. Those guys, generally speaking, if they do it to acquire business before ever working with you, they're going to know how to blend the data in and still do so compliantly. Whereas somebody that's just starting from scratch, picking up the phone and dialing, that is not the smartest methodology or strategy for activating the data. So that's kind of what I go over. I just shoot a quick little video showing them how to be federally compliant, how I recommend they reactivate the data. That way they're likely to have the most success and do so legally and compliantly, right? Now, as I said, C kind of varies on the services I'm providing. If I was just offering the super pixel, I wouldn't have to go through necessarily all that stuff. And I might make a little bit of a different video, but generally speaking, for all of my users that I'm going to the end of the consumer guy who's using this data for his own offer and his own brand, I want to make sure he's clear on how he's activating it, or reactivating the data, meaning his outreach channels. And then I want to make sure he's clear that he's compliant and legal doing so. So the only update to this document, and some of you guys that hopped on late, just to reiterate, I actually taught this lesson and created this document about 4.5 months ago, the first workshop I ran back in February. The reason I am revisiting it today is because I'm still getting asked questions. I'm still getting emails. I was on a one-on-one call with a client yesterday that enrolled with us in February that's still having trouble monetizing his data. So anybody, basically just in the last 2 weeks, that's the most questions and the most interest I've seen in terms of the sales side of things that I could show up today and provide people with value. I like to make these relevant. A lot of times I like to make them new. Yes, sometimes they're redundant because we always have new clients coming in, clients phasing out. But I try to build these based off of what am I getting asked for the most? What are people booking on my calendar and asking me? What are they struggling with? That's why I built out today's lesson. Prior to today, when I ran this lesson before, there was only 6 things. There was only 7 things, but the one that we've added on just recently, and a lot of you guys have asked for over the years, you may not have even seen this. I think my team just finished this like late last week, or even maybe it was even yesterday, maybe it was even Monday of this week. But a lot of you guys have asked for a privacy policy that you can put onto your website to make sure you're compliant. So what we did is this link is a great little template. And then, of course, we have to put in this little prerequisite. This document is a template provided by Audience Lab for client use. It should be reviewed by qualified legal counsel prior to deployment to ensure compliance with your state, right? So applicable laws, regulations, jurisdiction, specific to your business, your niche, your industry, and specifically to data practices. But I get asked this all the time, and I feel like I always either build these custom or copy and paste them and send them to a client once. So now we wanted to build out the best template that we've seen work for our most successful clients, and then just make sure you guys have access to that. If you are building out a website or a landing page, you're going to want to make sure you have a good privacy policy template on the bottom of your website or wherever that goes. I mean, some of us, we have multiple page sites where it might be on a second or third or a back page, etc. And then number 8, the most important aspect of everything I talked about today, if we built a shitty audience to start, none of the rest of the stuff I went over matters, basically. Doesn't really matter what my outreach approach, doesn't really matter what my messaging. If I built a shitty audience in the beginning, meaning not very effective, not very efficient, not the right keywords or intent level for my actual buyers, all that other stuff falls by the wayside. So I think we should all know this by now. But as number 8 says, the 7 things I listed above are all contingent upon being proficient with building audience. If you don't feel like you are such, I recommend going back to the Getting Started with Audience Lab module, going through, how do I pull my first audience? How do I use the pre-mades? When is the intent or the keyword audiences better than the pre-mades, etc.? Just making sure you're confident and familiar with that. A lot of our DaaS clients have access to one-on-one audience building help. If you ever want one of my best audience builders to just hop on a call with you, hold your hand and help you build your first audience or two, so you are confident with how you're doing it, that's great as well. Or attend the data strategy workshops, the only one we run every single weekday. I've just found from all my conversations with you users, the people who show up to a couple of those workshops per week are, generally speaking, the people that crush it with the data. The people that don't ever show up to those workshops are the ones always struggling or asking questions or saying they can't get the data to convert, or it's not as it was advertised or promised. I guarantee you the data is everything we've always said, but it is certainly possible to go into the Audience Lab audience builder and build a crappy audience. Do I want you guys to do that? Are there ways to avoid that? No, I don't want you to. Yes, there's ways to avoid that, but is it possible to go build a shitty audience? 100% it's possible. And I've seen quite a few people bring me their audience, show me that it's not converting, and I found out really quickly that it wasn't that dialed in. It wasn't a proficient audience. So everything else kind of falls by the wayside, right? Everything we're doing in the Audience Lab plan, I don't care what plan, what program you're in, incubator, entry level DaaS, the DaaS Unlimited, where you're reselling and have unlimited everything. I don't care if you're using the data in your own marketing campaigns, in client campaigns. If those campaigns are email, SMS, ads, cold call, door knock, it doesn't matter. If I built a shitty list, all of that just falls by the wayside. So the foundation of everything we do in Audience Lab, especially through the Audience Builder, might be a little different with the pixel and the enrichment, but within the Audience Builder is contingent upon building an effective, efficient, proficient audience. If we're not doing that right, everything else can fall apart no matter how dialed in, these other 5 or 6 steps that I went over is. So that's what I wanted to cover. That's kind of today's full lesson. I wanted you guys to have this updated document with all the resources under each one to give you some ideas and more specifics or examples of, of what I'm talking about specifically. I wanted to make sure all of my users have access to the new privacy policy template that we've created for you guys in case you are building out your own sites, landing pages, etc. Now what I'm going to do, give me 1 minute as I go look for that other landing page that I wanted to show you guys that we built out that we're driving traffic to. And in the meantime, if you guys have any questions about what I did cover on today's lesson, anything wasn't clear, you want me to elaborate more, it was confusing, whatever, go type a 1 in the chat and I will call on you individual momentarily. And just bear with me 1 second while I go find the link to that landing page that I want to bring up that I think it was Michael asked about, and I'm probably some of you other guys would like to see as well. So just give me 1 minute here and let me go find that. I just didn't have it up on the page when I first hopped in today. Let me go back. And having folders with 9 million resources never makes it super easy to find it when you need it immediately, but now here we go.
Hey, Ray,
yep.
Do you know why they are not giving us the ability to select the low, medium, or high intent, um, low, medium, or high intent box when we run
I'm
our
actually
searches.
I'm actually not sure. I was under the impression you could still do that, but I'll be very honest with you, Michael. I'm about 2 years removed from building audiences on a daily basis. My role and my position in the company has just evolved that I don't really do that, which is why I don't cover too much of like the back end data building audiences because it's not my role. Either I think that's a great question to hop on a data strategy workshop, or either reach out to Rohit or Jaden on my team and ask them directly. They can help you there a lot better than I, again, just because I'm a couple years removed from doing that on the regular. Here we go. Now I finally find the links I'm looking for. So let me find the initial landing page. So here's one of them, and now I'm going to screen share. I think I might have two different ones that we built out for our Pixel, but here's one of them. So this is a basic landing page that we either are sending referral traffic or paid ad traffic to when they say, I have a website and I drive traffic to it month in and month out, and it does drive revenue into my business. That type of person we send to this page that really quickly, as the headline says, right? Turn anonymous traffic into real buyers, add one line of code, find out who visited your said website, then we email them for you automatically. So that's something extra that we built in that I don't expect all of you guys to provide. Most clients would just do the email themselves. It's something we built in as a perk, and the more we can do for clients to get them better results, the better results they're going to see, right? The more we always leave in our clients, and the less likely they're to either do it or do it right and effectively, etc. So really quickly, they come in here and they're like, hey, man, I'm a software company. They click on that. How many hits do you get to your website? I get between 10 and 50,000, Ray. And what's your biggest challenge right now with that website? I get a lot of traffic, but very little converts, right? So they click on those three things, and then they put in their information, and it takes them to either a checkout page, or if they prefer, they can get a call and a demo as well. So we offer both. But this is a also can be a seamless funnel where they don't need a call. I recommend for Audience Lab and for my own business, and this totally different for most of you guys, I like to send everybody to a sales call, even if they think they only need our $97 package. Because a lot of times, what myself or our sales team finds out in conversations is although they came in for the $97 pixel, that's what makes sense. They also want a list or two per month of in market data, and they didn't even know about that when they saw the initial ad or the message. So a lot of times there's things we can upsell or put people in the right package rather than them just thinking what they know, which is another reason why I like to drive them to sales calls. But this page is super simple, right? We ask them three basic questions, as you saw: industry, website traffic, biggest challenge. Then we say, hey, we're going to slap a pixel on your website and let you try it for a week. Where should we send your free leads? And then this gets them into either the pixel trial or go book a call where we set it up for them. We set a second call with them a week later where we show them, hey, we installed this last week. Here's the amount of people resolved, yada, yada, yada. Do you want us to start to write your emails and send them out to these people and get some of these people back into your website or back into your booking link or whatever their call to action is? Now, we put a few different little metrics under the booking thing, as you see. Up to 70% of identities resolved, which is accurate. I like to stay between the 40 and 60% range when I make my expectations or when I'm building expectations, because number one, I know we can deliver on that. And sometimes it's even an under promise and over deliver. But that up to 70% certainly happens, in some cases, even higher. Matter of fact, we had somebody, I'm trying to think of who it was. I'm drawing a blank right now. Somebody a couple of weeks ago just put something in the Wins and Case Studies channel in our school community about the Pixel Health, saying they just installed on a new client website and they were seeing 70% or more resolved identities. So that was another case where it was certainly hitting up to the 70%. But as we mentioned, up to 70% of your traffic identified. We're tracking over 300 million users. So if they're visiting your website, they're likely in our super graph. We can get you your first lead within 30 minutes after this is installed on your website. And this is SOC2 certified and compliant. So then we show them the three basic simple steps to making this work. Number one, add the pixel on the website. Number two, we find your visitors and show them. And then again, the only difference that we do, likely different than most of your guys, we'll email them for you and get your messaging dialed in and start to get you some responses. So this landing page is super short and concise. There's no more than what you see here, right? Everything you need, nothing you don't, just kind of reiterating. Here's what some of those resolved identities look like: their name, their email number, their email, the company that they work for. We can go deeper and find the position. Your visitors are already there. Start talking to them. boom. So pretty standard, landing page. I am personally on the mind, and what I do in my marketing and my sales process, generally speaking, less is more. The longer, more elaborate landing page, the more to confuse people, the more that you're showing them something that they didn't really jump on your page for. And if they didn't jump on your page for that, they likely don't care about it, right? So I like to make my landing page simple, specifically to the messaging on where I'm sending people. So we have specific pixel ads going out that just send people here. If they were to click on one of our other ads for, unlimited audiences and white label capabilities, they wouldn't go to this landing page. They would go to a different spot. So I like to make my landing pages and sites totally in alignment with the messaging that's bringing them in, and then just short and concise and right to that point. So there's one example, Michael. Hopefully that's helpful. I also dropped, as I mentioned, a client example earlier in that document that I shared with everybody, that one of my clients, Jeremy, put together, that he was just sending traffic there. They would go and put in their own numbers. He actually embedded the pixel calculator into his website where people could kind of see their ROI, and they would just go click and buy a plan right from there. So there's an example of what that looks like. Let me go back and stop screen share and just, excuse me, check the chat and see what else we have for questions in there. Yeah, the low, medium, high. Again, I'm just not sure there, Michael. Check with Ro. Again, you already asked that one, but yeah, check with Ro or Jaden on the team, or hop on any data strategy workshop. They'll be able to clarify and answer for you. Again, I thought it was still there. I'm not sure why. What exactly is a resolution? We went through that. You said that your clients use this. Which package is this to get access to this page? Do you have landing pages to resell white label DaaS? So we have, Stan, we have some templates of landing pages that our clients have used, and I can certainly go find them. I don't think I have them up right now, and I'm running to the end of my time here shortly, but let me go put in my notes here, and I'll follow up with you. Let me just write down what you were looking for: landing page templates. And do you have landing page to resell white label the DaaS software? So yeah, basically what that landing page, that takes them into our main website or our DaaS agency funnel. And that's where I just don't have it up right now. So I'll go find you the example of template landing pages and the real world example of, so we have some templates, right, that are for you to build out and make and customize your own. And then I'll show you the exact example that we are using on our more extravagant, packages and our more white label and reseller. But yeah, we have separate pages for that stuff. Normally, the people that are looking for the resell, the white label DaaS software, the white label dashboard capability, typically for us, those are agencies that want to go serve clients. And when they go into the data dashboard, they don't want it to say Audience Lab. They want it to say, Ray's Marketing Agency or whatever their company is called, right? So it gives them the access to get clients into the dashboard without knowing they're using Audience Lab. That's one of the biggest features. The other aspect is you can have your client log in and give them the training and education and have them build their own audiences, so you don't have to do it for them, right? And any of the other packages where you don't have the white label capabilities, you need to either get on a call with them or get all the information and then go build the audience for them. Where in this case, you can have them do it themselves and give them the training. So I will find you any resources that we're currently using that go together with the white label reseller aspect, whether that be templates, existing landing pages, et cetera, and I'll send that over to you today. Stan, in the school community, what is your actual last name? Because here it says, Stan Groundshaker. So just let me know what your actual last name is so I can find. Perfect. That's all I needed. Now I can actually locate and make sure I send it to the right Stan. Otherwise, Stan, I have too many people in there's quite a few Stans that we work with. I don't want to send it to the wrong guy. So thank you for putting that. I'll do that research a little later today and send that over to you. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Gene?
John.
John. Sorry.
I got a quick question. I
Yeah,
got a quick question for you. I know the package that I bought only gave me 4 audience lists. If I want to go to 5 or 6, how do I do that? And what would the cost be?
Yeah, great question. So we have tiered plans. We have an entry level plan, which only have 2 audiences. You're in our second tier, our DaaS 101, I believe, is the plan you're in. Again, I don't have it in front of me. Pretty sure that's right, which you get 4 audiences. From there, we have a DaaS growth, which is 7 audiences per month, and it bumps up your monthly fee about $500. So I think the plan you're in, correct me if I'm wrong, you're paying $997 for 4 audiences. You'd be paying $497 for 7 audiences. You also get some more pixel and enrichment resolutions in that plan for some of the people that run out of those each month. So that's the next plan. If you want access or you want to discuss it, you just reach out to the rep that enrolled you. He can get you back on a call. And even if you want to enroll like mid-month, we will offset your billing. So you already paid for half the month, right? We'll only charge you $250 for this first month instead of the full $500 for an upgrade.
All
Got
right,
it,
thank
Michael.
you.
I got your message and your contact information there. I will save and also send you the same. You're just saying send you the same resources that I'm sending to Stan. Is that right, Michael? I believe that's what you mean by that. And hopefully that answers your question there, John.
It did. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Quite welcome.
I don't
Cool.
remember who signed me up, but I'll search.
Oh, I could probably look that up for you right now, or just go back to when you first enrolled. The first email you would have got for your initial onboarding stuff would have been from that rep. Or again, or you could shoot me a DM in school and just give me your first and last name, and I can go look it up for you.
Thank you so
Cool.
much.
I saw a couple other things. Maybe I might have missed it. Hold on. Let me just go back and make sure I got all these messages. Okay, Barrett, got your email now saved too. Thank you. I could have found it, but that's even easier. Save me the time. Please share landing page template. Okay, I'll get you in there as well. Because soon I know we just met within the last week or two. I still have all your information and contact stuff fresh in my browser. That'll be easy. Georgetta, I will get it to you as well. Matter of fact, I'll send it to all you guys individually, but since everybody seems to have some demand or interest in it, I'll probably go put a post in our school community too saying, hey guys, anybody who attended my workshop today and they were looking for some more examples of templates or landing pages that we used for our white label and our DaaS dashboard. I'll put a post in there, but I also have all your information here. So I'll either DM or email y'all individually, but also put one group post just in case I miss somebody or somebody else. I'm guessing if all you guys are saying you want access, right? Most likely some of the people that aren't on this call will like those resources as well. So I'll make sure I put a post again in our private client school community, either today or tomorrow. I'll try to get to it today, guys. I do have a couple other calls to run, and it's also 4 p.m. I may be going into tomorrow, but I'll get it done for you within the next business day for sure. Cool. That seems to be about all the questions. One more just came in. Great meeting. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for saying so, Stan. Thank you again, Georgetta. You are, again, as I always point out, my most loyal workshop attendee, certainly to mine and probably to all of Audience Labs from what I hear from my other guys. So I love your energy, love that you're always learning, and love that you come here with the intent to pick up something, whether it's a resource, whether it's something you can tweak in your system, right? As I always say, these workshops, guys, I run these every other week and we run a lot throughout the week. But my main objective is out of everything I covered today, if you could just take away one thing or one resource and go put it into your system or go make some tweaks or go improve something, that's a win for me. I want these workshops to not only be learning lessons, but actually implementable tools that you can go execute on to make a difference in your process, whether that might be switching the outreach channel, tweaking my messaging and improving it, right? Might be getting better, or now I know where to go find my contracts and agreements, right? Could be any one of those things I covered, but my challenge to you is at least take one thing. What was the number one takeaway that would make the biggest difference for you? Use that resource, that education, go implement in your business and actually get the results. Because when I talk and you guys just listen but never go take any of this and implement it into your business model, I'm kind of talking for nothing, but hey, I still get paid to talk, and it's what I do kind of well, as you guys can tell. I'm kind of a talker, right? But yeah, awesome, guys. That's always my goal. I try to bring value and at least one thing you can go implement out of these workshops. Oh, Kasoon, did you have? Oh no, you were just clapping there. Awesome, great, great. All right, guys, I got to run. I actually have another call here in a couple of minutes, so by the end of the day, this replay will be uploaded into the sales channel in school. For anybody that missed it, hopped in late, wants to review it, and I will have those resources either put together today or tomorrow that you guys asked about. Thanks for everybody's time, questions, engagement. I appreciate you all, and you'll see me back here in 2 weeks, same time, same bad channel. Bye-bye, guys.